Alrighty, folks, time to bring in Shane Walton, former Notre Dame defensive back. You might even know him as a former Notre Dame soccer player, Big East Freshman of the Year after leading the team in scoring in '98, then walking on to the Irish football team as a sophomore and a unanimous first team All-American as a senior in 2002. Not a bad, little introduction there for you, Mr. Walton. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, brother. It's good to be on. I know Mike and I spoke last week, and I watched the show, so I'm excited to be on.
Do you like the show? Do you like the show, Shane? Do you like what Mr. Goolsby's always saying?
I do. I love it. There's a bunch of like Notre Dame guys who are doing podcasts, and again, like you play with someone, and you just have a different level of like admiration and respect, especially at Notre Dame. It's like a brotherhood, right? And so when I saw that he was on, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna watch this show. Yeah, I'm gonna support him. So I love his take. He talks like he played. I love it. No nonsense. Like let's just get straight to it. Cut all the BS out.
Amen. Amen. I think I've calmed down a little bit at 40, Shane. But yeah, you got to be yourself. So yeah, it's great having you on. This is Mike? This is our fourth or fifth kind of like ex-player that we've had on.
Yep.
And I've made it a bit of a mission, Shane, to get, guys that I know that were truly Notre Dame greats. Again, not named Tim Brown or Jerome Bettis. And you've been on kind of my short list. So I'm glad you reached out a couple weeks ago. You're currently coaching high school football now, correct? Just
I am
for
in
the
San
audience.
Diego. Yeah, where I went to high school.
Okay. So I want to jump back to when you were in high school and like your recruitment was football. And this is before, you walked down to the team. This is you coming up as a youngster. Was football like ever an idea as a sophomore, junior, high school, or was it strictly soccer?
I grew up playing football. Just really, it's a funny story. Where I really learned how to play football was in the front lawn of Juvenile Hall. So that was the only grass area in my neighborhood, was the front lawn of Juvenile Hall. And I mean, these guys like had no mercy. It was Darnay Scott, who ended up having like a 7-8 year career. It was JJ Stokes, who played at UCLA and then played in the pros, and a bunch of really good players in my neighborhood. And they just murdered me. I was like 8 years old. They're 14, 15, just like no mercy. Okay. And so you had to learn like how to like compete, right? And like there's no like, take it easy on these 8. No, you're playing here. You're playing. And so that was really where I learned like how to play football and how to be tough and how to be physical and really how to tackle like guys bigger than me, right?
Okay.
But so soccer was my main sport. I said I didn't play organized football until I got to high school. And it wasn't that huge of a jump because I've been playing like in my neighborhood for so long. But as soon as I started playing, I was like, oh, this is a lot easier than soccer. Like soccer, I got to beat someone with the ball at my feet and try to dribble around them. And football, I'm just holding the ball. So it's a lot easier to get around people, right? And so, and I think I was in better shape having played soccer for so long. So it was the two sports that, it was a good marriage. Like just understanding like angles and understanding things that are developing before they actually develop.
Sure.
I think the two really helped each other out.
Yeah, I think that conditioning probably came into play. It helped you talk more shit, I would imagine, You had your wind all the time. But I'm talking like recruiting, Shane. Like were any schools like, because and there's another contributor here on the channel, Tim Hyde, who's a longtime high school football coach out in your kind of area. And I guess you played against Tim's team when you were in high school. So, I mean, were there schools that were interested in you as a football player? Or was it solely?
There was a few. It was, again, my school it's a small school. So it's not really it's known for academics. It's not really known for football. And so like back then, right, everyone's like, oh, you don't go to one of the big schools, then you just no one recruits you. Now they'll try to find you anywhere you are. But I had a little bit of interest from like UCLA. I had a little bit of interest from USC. But Fresno State was my only offer for football, and that was to play receiver.
Okay. So you get to Notre Dame, freshman, Big East freshman of the year on the soccer pitch.
Look at you.
You like that? On the soccer pitch. So I kind of remember the backstory again. It's been 20 plus years, but what brought you to football? Was it like weren't you boys with like some of the football players and you guys were chopping it up and you're like, bet I'm gonna try out? How did that go?
You know, I don't even remember the real story anymore. I've heard so many stories. No, how it happened was Mike Berticelli was the soccer coach
Okay.
at the time, and he was the one coach that came in our house and was like, "Hey, what's up? Like, what's going on?" I was like, "Oh, this is refreshing." Just like there was no pitch, there was no salesy approach. He was just himself, and I was like, "I want to go play for that guy. I don't care what sport it is. I want to play for him." And then, like through the recruitment, he goes, "Look, I want you. I know your desire to play football." He goes, "Let's do this. You play 2 years of soccer, and then during your soccer, obviously soccer and football are both in the fall." And he goes, "In the spring, you go do spring football. And then after 2 years, you make your decision." He goes, I feel like it's a win-win-win. Like we win, maybe football wins, and then you get to win, so you don't have to make a choice." And so that happened. I had a pretty good fall of soccer. But I just remember like the practice fields, they butt up against each other. And I just remember being at soccer practice and all I was doing was listening to the football practice the entire time and just feeling like I wanted to be over there and not where I was. And so I did spring football, and I think, Coach Davey did that deal out of a favor to Mike Berticelli. I don't think he thought I was going to be really worth a shit, right? Like, yeah, sure. Well, the soccer guy, we'll let him come out and practice in spring. Like, what the hell do we lose, right? We're down numbers anyway. So I think I came out and kind of surprised him a little bit. I was like, shoot, I think this guy could play. And so, like, I think it was like, 5, 6 spring practice. He goes, "Hey, like, if you're serious about this football thing, like, we got an extra scholarship. Would you play?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, let's talk about it after spring." And so that's kind of how everything came to play.
Okay. So then you joined the football team sophomore year of college?
No, freshman year. So, well, going into the that summer after my freshman year was when
So
I
you
was.
played 3 years. So did you start as a junior then, your first year starting?
No, I played. So my freshman year, I played soccer.
Got it.
And then going into that summer, that's when I started football. So I got 4 years of football.
Interesting. So then when did you become, because, what? So I got there 2000, which would have been your sophomore year. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then
So I was the year
I'm trying to figure out like when you started. When did you like become a starter on the football team?
when did I start or when did I start playing?
When were you a starter on the football team?
Oh, your freshman year.
Okay.
Yeah, because
No
I came
kidding.
out my first year. I played like spot dude. I didn't play very much. I just had to learn the game and transform my body. I was like a soccer body, right? I was like 165. I could run all day, but like wasn't as explosive as some of the football guys, right? And I didn't have the physique to really get out there and play. So it took a year to like transform my body. And
Sure.
so then my second year of football is when I ended up starting.
Got it. That's amazing. Amazing. Yeah. And I was telling Singer before we went on air, and I don't know all the stats, bro, but like that 2002 defense was fairly remarkable. And then when you look at the back half of the defense, you've got you, former soccer player, Vontez Duff, former tailback, Glenn Earl, former wide receiver, and then Jerome Sapp, who was like, an all-American safety coming out of high school. And now you're coaching high school football. So like, and you and I talked a couple weeks ago, as simplistic as you can make it, and you've already touched on like the importance of, competition and having that kind of in your DNA, that compete. But what like constitutes, what makes a good defense as a coach, now coach, ex-player, former All-American? What do you think?
I mean, there's some basics, right? But like at the very basic level, and I have 3 rules for my team. Number 1 is to have fun. And number 2 is to know your responsibility. Like you got to know your plays, you got to know the checks, you got to know those things. And number 3 is just get to the football.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I want the kids to do is I want them to be having fun. I want them to be accountable to one another. and then I want them to just work their ass off. Like if you can do that and get to the football, like you can have a good defense, right? So that means you're disciplined, you're having fun, and you're flying around. And I
Yeah.
look at the 2002 defense, like, I mean, we were disciplined, we had fun, and like I watched like Notre Dame games now. I'm like, shit, like these dudes need to go watch that 2002 defense. Watch how everyone is like, there's a desire and a passion and almost like an accountability to get to that damn football. Like you miss a tackle, there's 3 or 4 other guys right there. Like that,
Sure.
like I talk about it and I get chills because it's like that was fun. Like guys like knew like, hey, I got to hold up my end right now, right? Like if I'm not doing everything I have to do to get that football, I'm letting people down. And so I
Yeah.
always say it's like it's the closest thing to like the military, right? Like it's not the military, but like you are so dependent on every single person on that defense to do their job and then work their ass off. Again,
Yeah.
we're not going to die if we don't do it, but like it's the closest thing to that, right?
Yeah. Well, I think the accountability piece between the units, and I looked at that defense. I mean, there was leadership on every level. And ironically, I mean, because I would say in hindsight, like you were the star of that defense. And it's like, you're getting leadership from a corner. It's just, it was different. It was unique. But, you touch on as your coach, as your approach as a coach, have fun, be accountable, play your ass off. All 3 of those things are like intertwined too. I mean, you're going to have more fun if you know what you're doing, right? And it's like
And more
getting
success.
to the ball is fun, that's why we're out there.
Look, yeah, I tell these guys, man, like, look, the faster you learn what you are doing and everyone else around you is doing, the more success you have. If I know like I don't have the 2 drop, I just got to get to the 1. I don't care about whatever's coming in because I know I'm just dropping to the 1. So you do that, and like it allows you to have more success. Like all I'm trying to do is put you all in positions to have success, and like knowing what you're doing is like that's a big damn piece of it.
Sure. Well, that's funny. You call it 2 drops and 1 drop. You can't just call it a curl and a flat.
I got to make it simple, man.
No, it trips me out because like I went to a really good high school program, like 15 state championships, and it was like 1 and 2 drops. And then you had to kind of relearn like, oh, a 1 is a flat or whatever, it's just interesting. That's too funny.
I make it as simple as possible
I
because
get it.
I just want them to play fast. I don't want them thinking like, oh, this guy disappeared. Okay, 1, boom, I'm done.
Yeah. So Notre Dame last season had a bit of a breakout performer in Benjamin Morrison, and I know you watched the games.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've said this, and I think it's not unique to me, but like, tailback and corner are the easiest positions for a young kid to step into. And I guess that's relatable to you, playing corner and kind of coming in from the soccer pitch. Like, could you speak to that at all? Like that transition for a young corner?
I think there's less going on around you, right? Like I'm not playing middle linebacker where I'm reading the guard and then I'm reading the down block from the tackle and then trying to get my eyes at the backfield and then look to see if I'm going to get cracked by the receiver, right? Like I'm on the outside. And my job is like, if we're a man, like, hey, shit, it's just to cover this guy and take him out. If I'm in cover 3, like I got my deep third, right? So it's kind of like, and everything else is inside of me. And so I kind of like, it's the one position where obviously I have to know who's dropping under me or where my help is in man coverage. But it's really like, when you're cerebral at that position, you could be really good, but you don't have to be as cerebral, I think, as other positions early on.
Got it. Yeah, you can just let your physical ability take over.
And you can see that in Benjamin Morrison, right? Like the guy he's special and he has a confidence about him. He's not afraid of people running away from him. He can go up and get jump balls and win those. He's good out of his back pedal. But you could also see that there's things that maybe he doesn't understand where the droppers are. Because if he understood he had a dropper underneath, maybe he doesn't fall for the stop and go, right? Because it's covered. So that piece of it for him will come, I'm sure. But like when he has that raw ability, like and the athletic ability to play as a freshman, he's going to be special, man.
Yeah. I go back to you, and I'm listening to you talk, and I'm just kind of replaying some of these things in my head that You talked about Benjamin Morrison having confidence, and
Mhm.
you were oozing confidence. And I don't buy that. That's like sometimes, and I know Coach Bear used to say this, like sometimes you almost have to have like fake energy because it
Yeah.
can be contagious regardless, that confidence, is that just something you're born with, or is that something you can instill in players?
You
Your
know,
thoughts
it's
there?
confidence is you can definitely grow it, right? And it comes with knowledge and it comes with experience and having the small successes in order to build on top of those. But I look at it and I see what you can't teach is like the desire and the drive to be great.
Hmm.
And I think you're born with. I have two sons, and my oldest son Isaiah, this dude, I mean, if I beat him in Candyland, he's pissed, right? If we play like war and I win, he cannot take losing. My other son Noah, I love him to death. He's just as happy that I'm there, and he's
Mhm.
happy he's included, right? And so I think you're born with those things, and I see like Isaiah just wants to compete, and like he doesn't even care about winning. He just refuses to lose. Like
Got
he
it.
hates it, and he just wants to compete. Everything's a competition.
I
Like they're
love
doing the
that.
warm up lap in baseball. He's no one can beat him. He's sprinting. He's looking back to see how close people are. So like I think you're born with that, and I think confidence is something that you can get. I mean, through having small successes and understanding what you're supposed to do. But that desire and that drive and that competition, it's you can't teach that.
That's fascinating, especially with young people now with all the distractions.
Mhm.
I train young kids on the side, some higher level kids, and I tweeted out months ago. I was like, I hope the kids still want to be great. Like I grew up watching Jordan, and it was just like, what a blessing it was for me to be 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, like watching the GOAT and the way he handled himself. And I'm just like, man, like Shane Walton's a unanimous All-American, 7 picks, 2 for touchdowns, all these great things. It's like you're probably harder to find on the internet than just some random sophomore down the road that created his own YouTube channel and whatever else. So it's like kids can almost develop their own clout,
Yes.
and it's like fake greatness. I'll see kids go out to the field and like take a selfie, hashtag like on my grind, and don't even break a sweat. But all their friends think that they're out there working.
Who
So
doesn't work it? Yeah.
it's really interesting,
Yeah.
that dynamic with young people, how you can kind of create fake greatness and create attention for yourselves. And it's I think it can be debilitating at times.
I call it like uh disablement by enablement. Right.
Hmm.
They get so much without with doing this much. And it's like they get all this attention and all this like this lore, like all this, and they didn't do anything. Like what you haven't done anything. So I in at my school, I see the guys who are gonna. I know who's gonna do it well. Just had a
Hmm.
coach in my office, and he's asking me like, "Who loves football?" I'm like, "This dude loves football. This guy has more offers, but this guy loves football." He
I
goes, "I
got it.
want this guy." I'm like, "Yeah, me too."
Yeah.
All this like Twitter and Instagram, all this stuff is like ruining these kids, man. Like they're getting so much value and acceptance and approval from like this fake world, right? And it's like
It's a trip. But I feel bad for them too, right? I mean,
I
this
do
isn't
too.
us
Yeah.
chastising the kids. It's like, if I was 14, I'd be probably doing the same thing, right?
Oh, 100%. It's a different world. Just like college football is a different world, and we're just having to adjust to it. But um, yeah, it's tough to be a kid these days, man. Like they're pulled in so many different ways. Every mistake they make is like the world can see it. I
Hmm.
did so much dumb shit growing up, but like only people that saw it were the people that were around me. It wasn't on YouTube, right? Like,
Thank God they didn't have cell phone cameras
right?
back when we were in school. Thank God. Like for real.
I
For
wouldn't
real.
have this
Yeah.
job now.
No, yeah, we used to do like selling our books back. Like we could have got kicked out of school for that. Like I didn't even think about it back then. It was just like, oh, I can make $300 selling my free books back, like just dumb stuff.
In the summer, I remember a couple of the guys. I'll keep them nameless. They got a bunch of fireworks, and we're in their car just driving around shooting fireworks at people.
Sure.
Imagine if that's like on video now. Kids are gone, probably
Yeah.
arrested.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's probably the most G-rated thing we could touch on. Well, how did you get into coaching? Because you got drafted to the Rams.
Yeah.
Time flies. How did you find yourself back in football?
When I left my senior year from my high school, I had a meeting with the headmaster, and he goes, "Hey, you're different." He goes, "You came here and you were successful, and you did it because you just worked and you could grind." He goes, "I want you to know that if you ever want a job, you have a job here." So now you fast forward, I'm kind of like, football's done. I had back surgery. I'm a broken commodity, right? I'm not like, nobody wants me anymore. I'm like, what do I want to do? And so I picked up the phone. I called the headmaster. I'm like, "Hey, thinking about moving back to San Diego. You have a job?" He goes, "Be here Monday morning, 8 o'clock." And so I started working here. And at the time, like, I wanted nothing to do with football. Like, if I could have just walked away from football, like on my own accord, like it would have been different, right? But
So
like,
true. So true.
but being hurt and like not being able to like just say goodbye to the sport, like I never got to really prove or be what I thought I could be, and that was tough for me. Um, and then so I had a difficult relationship with football. And so my first 3-4 years working at the school, I didn't go to a football game. I didn't want anything to do with it. And then they hired this young coach, and he goes, "Dude, like you're here, the kids, like I'd love for you to coach." I'm like, "I'm not interested." He goes, "Like, you can come one day a week." He goes, "I just want you around." He goes, I know you know the game. Like, anything you could give would be awesome." And so I did that 15 years ago, and that guy and I are best friends now. And like, the rest is history. I just fell in love with pouring out what I had in my heart and mind into these kids, and
Yep.
hopefully that they receive those messages and grow from them.
Yeah. I think my story is very similar. I like to say, Shane, like when I was done with football, or when football was done with me,
Yeah.
rather. And yeah, that transition, that's like you love the game, but you kind of resent it at the same time. I had Aaron Taylor on. He was actually the first former player that I had. And I saw he had tweeted some stuff about like beyond football. And it really resonated with me. So I brought him on the show, and like, he went through, and he was a great player, won Super Bowls, made millions of dollars. And it's like, and a guy like that even struggles. So, uh,
It's almost like you're institutionalized, right? Like, you have this, like, every second of your day is like planned for you. And then you leave that and you're in this new world, and like you have to plan out all your day and do everything yourself. And it's like, it's like, it's scary, right? It's like the fear of the unknown, it's fear of change, it's fear of like failure, it's fear of success. It's a lot of different things, like, and you're on your own. And so that can be difficult for a lot of people.
yeah, and I think re-identifying yourself too is yeah, me personally. But again, that like you kind of stayed away from the game for 3-4 years. I did the same thing. I came back to it almost as like free therapy. Like, let me get all this out of my system and let me pay it forward to the next generation of kids. And that's how I got involved with it. And yeah, I've been doing it for 15-20 years myself,
Yeah, it's refreshing. You get that one kid that is, you see, has the ability and has the drive, but doesn't have the skills and the tools, and be able to like teach those to that kid is just freaking awesome. And then watch them go and grow, and like it's incredible. And even the ones
Yeah.
that are terrible, that are never ever going to play like a down for you, but like what you can do in their life is just incredible. I've had like great coaches, and I've had terrible coaches, and I remember every single one of them, right? And so I want to be the coach that was like, man, like, the guy loved me no matter what. He didn't care if I was great. He didn't care if I was terrible. He didn't care like anything. He just loved me for me, and helped me grow my skills, my confidence, and just like in life lessons.
Yeah. I think that's so interesting because yeah, I've had a couple kids that have been like highly ranked kids, and it's like, in a lot of ways, Shane, like I'm almost more proud of them and what they've accomplished than anything I did in a weird way. It's very strange. But
It is.
moving on to coaching, you've had a lot of bad coaches, as have I. And this is something people need to understand too. Like even at the college level, even at a Notre Dame, and we're not throwing anybody under the bus per se, but like I could say that my bad coaches, most of them were pretty bad, made me a better coach because I remember what it felt like to have this guy yelling at me. It's like, Coach, I don't know what you're trying to get me to do right now. So it's like I can remember how painful that was, and it's made me a better communicator with young people, right?
Yeah, that's the way it is, right? Like I talk to my coaches, every coach I hire, I tell them like, look, you have to earn the right to coach these kids. And you got to love them. You got to build a relationship and learn how they need to be pushed,
Mhm.
right? That to me is coaching one-on-one. If I don't know you, like, how do I know how to challenge you? How do I know how you grow? How do I know how you learn? And so, like, that is the biggest piece is them getting to know you and then challenge you in that way. But I look at coaches like I do. I hate the 7-on-7 stuff, but we'll go do some 7-on-7 tournaments, and I'm watching coaches like MF people and like this, dude, what are you doing? What? I'm like, they don't know what they're doing. That's why they're making mistakes. That's your job to teach them. And
Yep.
whatever's in your mind, you have to teach it in a digestible way that they can understand. But you are mad and frustrated, and you're projecting on this kid for not understanding how you want him to do something. Like, that's not football. Football is not yelling and cussing at a kid. Football and coaching is, again, transferring what's in here into their minds in the way that they can best hear it.
It's
And
so
that's what
true.
is miss.
It's so true. Yeah, and a lot of times kids, and this is like at a college level, like they're scared of their coach, fear means respect. It's the same thing, but they're scared of their coach. So then they get to a point where they're afraid to ask them a question about something that they feel like they should already know. And it's like, man, that's a real slippery slope because now coach assumes that you know this thing. It can get messy.
That's the worst spot to be in, right? They think you
Yeah.
know it, and then they think you're just messing up on purpose or just being a jackass, right?
Just to spite them. Yeah. Well, who's the best player you think you've ever, coached or been around at the high school level? And I can't really wink, Shane, but anybody
I
anybody
have
notable?
there's two. One is this little Hawaiian dude, Bullet Graft. This kid, he was a throwback player. Like when he got the foot, he was like 5'8" and probably like 175. But like this kid was unbelievable. Like if he got tackled, he was pissed every single time he got tackled because in his mind, every time he touched the ball, he expected to score a touchdown.
Mhm.
And so we're at a small school, so we play both ways. And anytime this kid fumbled or did something, he played free safety, and like the next tackle, that kid was going to feel it. And I just love that kid, man. There was a time where he had a high ankle sprain, and so he had to come out of the game. And he's sitting on the trainer's table, and his mom, like the tough Hawaiian love, mom comes out of the stands, and she looks at me and the trainer's like, "What are you doing?" And we're like, "He has a high ankle sprain." She goes, "Tape it up and get back out there." And the kid hopped up and he started limping back out there. And so that kid to me is one of the best kids I've ever coached. And just like his work ethic, it's like practice. This kid is just wet, just
Mhm.
dripping like wet, and just like he has nothing left after any practice, any game. Unfortunately for him, he just didn't have the height and the build to like be a really successful player. The other one, Tyler Buckner, is, I mean, I love that kid. I know he gets a tough rap from this Notre Dame crowd. But that kid he is special. I just remember coming into school 7:30 in the morning, and Tyler's already up on the field. He's already drenched from his weight workout and then throwing workout. And then after school, he's getting the receivers together to go throw. Like the guy is, I mean, he's special. I saw him in sixth grade. I'm like, who is this ninth grader that's not playing football?
Mhm.
Because our school is 6 through 12. And I'm
Yeah.
looking at this kid. Like, I know he's a freshman, but he was in sixth grade and he looked already like he could play football for us.
So I know you guys are close,
Yeah,
Tyler and
we still
yourself.
talk. We're always texting back and forth when things get difficult or there's a challenge. I think he respects our relationship and respects that I'm going to give the best advice for him, not necessarily for the school or his parents or whatever. I'm going to give him the best advice. And so I think we've built that relationship and really grown that relationship.
So two kind of like last little bit questions, because you did reach out to me, and for folks watching, Shane's on the blue and gold message board, and yeah, I think you saw me just going so hard for my boy Tyler on the podcast or in the message
Yeah.
board. But so going back to Tyler's recruitment, yeah, obviously you played at Notre Dame. Were discussions had? Like, how did you help him navigate that process, if at all?
My thing was to him was like, look, I love Notre Dame, and I think it'd be a great fit for you. It's a similar offense, and you're a Notre Dame kid. I said, but like, this is not my choice. I don't have to live with this decision for the next 4 or 5 years, however long it is. And so I told him, I said, you pick a school based on the academics, and if football were to ever go away, can you see yourself being at this place? And he fell in love with the culture of Notre Dame. He fell in love with the coaching staff. I know he and Tommy Rees were really close. Tommy was a big role in why Tyler committed in the first place. And then he loved what Notre Dame stood for. Like, it's kind of like, for people that don't really understand, like, especially when we were there, it's a blue collar place, right? You're not getting this special treatment where you're getting like, we're fighting to get extra grab and go, like an extra sandwich. Like, that doesn't happen like at any other place. Like, you get one sandwich and then one bag of chips, and then you're out. Like, what other football place has that? And so it's really is a blue collar thing. And I think he really enjoyed that about Notre Dame.
I love that. So then, obviously, you're still in each other's lives. Did you have any advice about this transfer situation? He's obviously landed at Alabama. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah,
fit overall, etc.
I know Tyler did not want to leave Notre Dame. He goes, look, I love it here. He goes, I love this place. I love what it stands for. I love my teammates. He goes, I just feel like, and I told him, I said, look, like, this is not the college football that I knew. I said, it's a business on both ends. And I said, Coach Freeman made a business decision and brought someone in, and he's allowed to do that. And I said, now you have a business decision to make as well. Do you see this as a fit for you? Do you see the new offensive coordinator as a fit for you? Do you see an opportunity where you feel like it's an open quarterback battle, or are they just saying that? And do you feel like, is the money here like a thing? I said, well, let's just take money out, because you can get more money at these higher end places. Like, do you really care about the money? He goes, no, like, it's not about the money. He goes, I just want to play with my brothers, and I just want to play football, and I want to try to make it to the NFL. I said, well, you gotta weigh that. Like, is Notre Dame, if that's your goal to make it to the NFL, is Notre Dame the best place for you to be right now? Is Alabama the best place? Is Auburn the best place? Like, there was tons of schools calling. They were calling me and asking about them, and I said, you just have to make the best decision for you and things that align with what your goals are. And so
last two things, and I want to talk on Coach Freeman, because again, there's a corollary between Coach Freeman, Coach Willingham, who we played underneath. Who was Tyler's like top 3 coming out of high school, like having gone through that process with him?
I think it was Stanford, Notre Dame, and like Alabama.
Got it. Okay, last thing, Coach Freeman. I know when Singer pops back on, I'm running long on time, but
time check.
What do you think about, we're going into year 3 with Coach Freeman as an outsider, and maybe you've got some inside intel through your relationship with Tyler. What's your overall thoughts on what we've seen on the recruiting trail, on the football field? What do you think?
It's tough. I have college football coaches here every day, and I'm like, I don't envy you. Like, you not only do you have to recruit all these high school kids, but you got to keep recruiting the kids that are at your school, and then keep recruiting the kids that you recruited that chose somewhere else. And I'm a big culture guy. I was like, that has to be the most difficult position right now. You're trying to create culture, but you're also bringing in guys that you brought in, and guys are leaving. Like, it's got to be difficult. I do not envy any college coach right now. It's a different football. College football is a different landscape. It is more of a business now than it ever has been. And And like, there's no more develop a guy and be patient and buys your time. Like that doesn't exist anymore. And that didn't just start in college football. That starts with like, I'm watching, we went on a vacation and we are like out in the mountains and we're watching like TV and we had to watch actual cable. And my son's like, he's pushing the button, trying to fast forward to commercials. I'm like, dude, this is not like Netflix or Disney. Like, there's commercials. You got to be patient, dude, and like just go through this. And like that to me is where everything starts, right? None of these kids have to like be patient or wait or like do any of that anymore. Like everyone wants stuff right now, and that's adults and kids included.
But it's interesting because that goes lack of patience goes both ways.
For
Where
sure.
you're looking at it from a player's perspective, like, man, if it ain't working out over here, I can jump ship. Or they think they can jump ship.
Yep.
I've got a kid that I trained that's in the portal, was the number one player in Nebraska, had 20-something offers, top 10 corner. He goes in the portal, he's gotten 3 offers, right, in the portal. But then the lack of patience also, Shane, and this is, I think you can bring this back to Coach Freeman. In my estimation, Coach Freeman was brought here to recruit, to be an elite recruiter. And that ties into that lack of patience with coaches, where a lot of times, and you know this as a high school coach now, college coaches want as close to a finished product as they can, as often as they can. Because I don't have to worry about quote unquote developing. I can go recruit more kids. Do you agree with that?
100%. And I think what Kelly lacked, they got in Coach Freeman, right? I think I think Coach Kelly was a CEO and a pretty good CEO. And I think what he lacked was the building of relationships with his players, from what I told. And then I think Freeman has that, right? That likability, that ability to connect with the kids and recruits. And I think that was, they tried to get in him what Kelly lacked. But this recruiting thing, again, it's a mess, dude. And I don't have the solution and I don't know the answer. And I think there's several levels of like being patient on both ends, right? Like, hey, you brought this kid here, you believed in him when you brought him here, and like, why do we not believe in him anymore to take the reins? So it's a tough one, but like, Notre Dame, if you don't win like right now, this second, like you're out.
Shane, you mentioned earlier Tyler's a Notre Dame kid. What does that mean to you? Like, what does a Notre Dame, I use that term all the time writing about a recruit that, hey, I just met out on the road. Like, yeah, this is a Notre Dame type kid. That's something we all say. You said it. What does that mean to you?
So I'll tell you a story. We had our banquet and Goolsby was there with the end of the year banquet. There's a bunch of recruits there. Everyone's in a tie, suit, whatever. And I see this guy in a tuxedo t-shirt. I'm like, that guy's not coming here. So a Notre Dame kid is like a guy that values the education. It values like the brotherhood. And this is about us. And this is about everyone who came here before us. And it's a guy that's going to do the right things, but still has some dog in him, right? I think that's a Notre Dame guy.
I hope this is not a stupid question. So, fingers crossed. If you would have stayed playing soccer, do you think you might have ended up a better soccer player than football player? Because you were amazing your freshman year.
Yes. I was always a better soccer player than I was a football player. I played soccer since I was 3 years old. Football, again, was new for me.
Yeah, but unanimous first team All-American. That's so you think if you would have kept playing soccer, you would have been better than the equivalent of a first team unanimous All-American for football?
Yeah, soccer was my sport. Football was new and there was a lot of nuances I had to learn about it and change my body. But soccer was like, that was my sport.
That's crazy.
Shane. So I got to witness all this. Was it week 1? We played Maryland. And again, God, it sucks to be like the ex-football player because like you feel like such a loser has been to go back and retell these stories. But like, week 1, we're on the road at Giant Stadium. We play Maryland. And what, you have 2 picks or 3 picks in that game?
3.
So did you go into that season being like, man, I want to be an All-American, or was some of this magical? Was some of this just luck? Preparedness meets hard work? What was it?
I had goals when I first transferred over to play football. My first year, like my goal was was like, I don't care if I play or not. I want to play, but I want to learn everything I can about football. So that next year, my goal was to start, and the next year was to be good. And my fourth year, my goal was to be great. I wanted to be one of the best in the country. And so that was my goal heading into that senior year. I wanted to be one of the best in the country at our position. And I think with the defense we had, it like everything works together. Like people, you get an award like as a corner. It's like, yeah, I made some plays, but shit, I don't make those plays if Big Sed's not getting in there and hitting the quarterback. I don't make those plays if you and Courtney aren't dropping underneath certain droppers. So, to me, I think the awards are like it's skewed, and it's like there's no exact science because, like football, you're dependent on everyone else around you.
Yeah, but that's that you're being kind with your answer.
But
This
no,
is the thing, Shane. Well, no, you're right. You're right. I had nothing to do with any of your interceptions except for the one at Rutgers, which I gave you. That. But what's interesting, Shane? Like you talked about, Mike asked, "What does it take to be a Notre Dame man, a Notre Dame fit?" And I've been like begging for this on that podcast because it is a balance between being a great student and weren't you like a triple major? Am I making that up in my brain?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
So unanimous All-American, triple major. I knew I remembered that. But like in some of these games, in these big boy matchups, like a guy like a Shane Walton, a guy like a Benjamin Morrison, like you have to make the play. Whereas Shane could have tipped that pass, would have been a really good play. But no, Shane's going to do that extra 5-10% thing to make the pick and hell, maybe even turn it into a crib call.
Yeah.
That's what Notre Dame needs to win these big time matchups. And I always talk about it's like almost like you almost step outside of yourself and just let it go.
Yeah.
Can you talk to that at all, Shane?
Yeah. I think that was like my entire life was kind of like that, right? Every big game, I had my best game.
Yeah.
I felt like I owed it to my teammates, like to will us to win a game. And I felt like the moment was never too big. I'm like, I've been here. We've been here. We've all been here. We've done this. Now we just got to go do it. And so I think in my mind, I had the confidence, and I had the confidence because like I studied the game. I knew what people were going to do. I had the confidence because Mickey got us right in the weight room and in like conditioning. And so all those things led me to believe that like I was good enough to do this. And so I think what we were touching on before is like kids have that belief without any of that work and without any of that stuff that goes into being great. And so like my confidence and my belief grew because I'm like, I'd done all the work to do it. Now it's just about going out and doing it.
That's great,
and
man.
I had this thought that I could just make any play.
And I'll say this, Mike, we could probably wrap it up. Shane, you knocked it out of the park, brother. I've always said you're one of the best people I know, like truly, like you're one of the best people I've ever met. You're a great dude, like rock solid. And I'll say like, as a teammate of yours, like going back in time, like if Shane was on the field, it's like you knew you had a place to stand. It's like he was always up. It's like you knew you had a place to stand. And like, I don't think you could ask for anything more from a teammate, truly.
I appreciate it. I always remember we were playing, I forget who we were playing. It was a home game early on, and Big Sed was sucking wind. And I used to just dig into people. I'm like, Sed, like cussing him out in his ear, and he's bent over. He looks up at me and goes, if I wasn't so tired, I'd whoop your ass right now. And I'm like, but like, I just believed in every single one of our guys. And like, whatever I had to do to bring that out of them, like I was willing to do it. And like, I honestly think that that's kind of what we're missing now. Like someone to get in someone's face and it's like, suck it the fuck up and get your shit together and let's go.
Poor Sed. I did the same thing. I can remember when was
I
down by Michigan game down. They're walking into the end zone. I remember he was in the huddle with his head down. I slapped the side of his helmet just to like piss him off, and I'm like, wake up, man. They're about to score,
Yeah.
Yeah. Poor Sed.
But you can't do that if you haven't put in the work. Like guys have to see you put in the work because they know how much it means to you. And they know that they've seen you do that work. So you've earned the right to do those things, to push people and like pull that out. And again, I think that we recruit nice kids. And like, again, I talked about that dog. You got to have some dog. Like you can have a nice kid, but still have some dog in you.
Singer, you got anything else? I'm sweating over here.
Better pick six. Goolsby against Tennessee or Shane Walton against Drew Brees?
Oh,
Oh, I don't know. Mine was on the road.
There you go. Tennessee's not easy to play. And a linebacker doing it
107,000
too.
people.
Mine was only 82,000, so got to give it to Goals.
All right, that's Shane Walton, everybody. Appreciate you joining us, Shane. We'll have to have you on again soon, my friend.
Love it. Thanks, guys. Now I get to watch it and watch myself look like a fool. So appreciate you, fellas.
No, you killed it, man. I appreciate it, man. Love you, brother.
Love you too, brother.
Thanks, Shane.
All right, Mike.